Zamno jibdi te kun chimbo posa jabostan zinjam zurkutsi yoni yotortan batang. Wokanjengo chiu tambana bishkutsi yoni yotortan batang. Wochukas nyera mirkan hanzo shozo tamnanda wok derdik te mira mirka sirde tapi olam yo.
All the Tibetans inside and outside Tibet, and to wish His Holiness the Dalai Lama a very long life, and all the sentient beings in Tibet and outside Tibet, and wishing that the whole Chogasum will unite together.
Nishton jongago davapchivi nyegarchikanyama nga achi tanzu dumani ta jarum buchi kapar zona ta yarno ina ngani laga jarum buchi kapar chang chang zona ta ta wo konga chen dam changa chen zin re ni ngani wala ya no khozu ko na dara ta gardo gumba in ko jana ka in ko ni to ko kordon ti golam ni yarno ni ona da ngani in ko jagar tanzan jam turkutsi chaloni choloje jagar tanzan jam tsude ke gudara gongo gardar jam gurum buchi nyora mirko goda he kodine da manir kem bo jam da ke skarma chezu mangurta
2015 October 21st, me and my sister Tenzin Shinyi, we carried two portraits, one of His Holiness Dalai Lama and one of Kidi Rinpoche, and then we were wearing black chubas, black Tibetan chubas, and we were walking from the Kidi Gomba to the place that's the police station that's near Kidi Gomba, and then we shouted His Holiness the Dalai Lama, long life His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we want His Holiness the Dalai Lama to return to Tibet, and we need freedom in Tibet, and we did that for around 10 minutes.
거인데 자rumbuchi 타 자rumbuchi 같이 철로니 철로쇼지 시금은 이렇게 뭐 시비 체나야 결말 쳐서 망고라 딱한 드드드드드 지로 데즈레서 고 되니 그빠르들 샤르도디 라히나니 짜도 버데 다가 여러 가지 말하는 자지 디디 여러 말은 텐디 여르슨 고는데 결말 다 숨친다는 거를 디 고는데 여러 나와 디셨다니.
And then while we were shouting "Long live His Dalai Lama," and then our sound became louder and louder, and then suddenly we heard some sound from behind, and then there was people like trying to grab them, and then the grabbing happened for around 30 minutes, and then they were caught.
얘랑 디디든들아 얘랑 우는데라 막 체크하고 타타타타타타 샤타타타타 말은 나한테 통다. 되는 거니 얘랑 라가니 말로 거 있는데 얘랑 비졌다. 비졌다 그냥 하스라 있는데. 어제 그냥 얘기 그 셋째 보고 있어. 당연히 제트라 시가 셨다. 라가니 말로 거 셨고. 더군이 응언니 저기 얘랑 말은 나오는데 염치 쳐가 주고 늘긴 저런 줘가.
And then a lot of armies came and they pushed us into the car, and then we were beaten and we couldn't move.
진이기 자르보치가 급발아서 진이기 니와 할이 잡치리 치에데 워크스 나랑이 메락던 거너스 급발 거니 치오는 진짜가 촉봐요 이쯤은 이거 촉봐셔서 진짜 필요한 일이에요 급발 거니 치오는 진짜 몇 세트가 세세요 진짜 촉봐요 이쯤은 이거 촉봐셔 자르보치가 촉봐요 이쯤은 이셔서 뭐참 촉봐서 밑
You guys are doing very serious things, that's what they said. And do tell us, we are sure that there is some organization behind you. Is it, where did you get all the portraits from? Did you get all the portraits from outside? And are you a member from the Dalai company, the Dalai organization?
The Nipcheston going to go when you get Handera, Wulladera, Wazuda, Changada, Tamains of a Chamaina. 다고 문제가 있었고 어때요? 혹시나 나만의 캐릭터가 디정데 년도 빠진 거. 올라니 참 말이지. 양직도 알아줘. 함이 채널에 좀 징조. 천이 쥐죠 언니지. 뭐니 쥐죠 언니. 올라다 오수체가 거는 쳐서금 손들이서. 뭐지 옷 나니 따와도 올라지 거는 옷공화전담 총화전진들이 떡은 높게 쓰고 옷그 자주 거는지 뭐.
And then they were wearing Tibetan clothes and having their tenga with them, their prayers with tenga with them. And then although their clothes were taken off, and then after that the police took them and separated them into two different places. And then the police asked them, why are you wearing these clothes? What does these clothes mean? And then they said, so they're saying that it is their identity.
Tani tutsuzo mangurta mangurense ko lachchig jamna dara goyinse ko achaka ndime ta chamba chakin gokep jundime ta rin khozo kamna dara harsri nan kurna abdine dara ta ngani ga nyawer zongoyinse ko qarnir kam chewinse ko ta tina chapda.
And then not very long after they were put red ropes on their heads and then taken away from their place to another outside Nawa.
Tani chirko ta cho chambari ko chamba chandiksa ko khchig dara ti lakha khchig ti dang ardos. Ta go nga jig mom chun nan ro inda yamchen namjin der stan dara ndirgin ndimi der ndirgu da di. Tani thoi shata ji ta thu jam dara yara long se chu. Yara long se jam chig da ngoli long se mera zang jang da chakn ko cho chamba ra sa.
So while she was sitting and having her handcuffed on, and the person came and seated very arrogantly and also kicked her and then started slapping her.
Tani atagan mannazo thojata. Chirtang ko tin se ko zegonero kunga. Chadro chu namjeri se ko jigo shiga shamo de na ho mergani namjeri yamtsan stongo dara chu chirtang ko namjertan dimizene yennerina chorang ko yin se ko rangshi da dimize yennerisi. Anga namjer dimize yengoni nazi. Daga kunga zinda jamchigno chu ojam tasi. Jam tasi. Jamchigzida arab korjata.
And then the police officer asked her, why are you having that facial expression on your face? And then she said that so she was acting. Her facial expression was like she didn't agree with that person, and then that person came and started slapping her again.
Tani tashiba jamchige ko kontogo cheko. Daga chichake jaram bochigo itsiko kaperta koni chiona chicha yichi muni gitsiko jaram bochigo tsukpayo yichi muni tsukpayo tsukso shosi. Tsukso so mi chichake nganna ringdu jondari jaram bochir kaper zona dandari jaram bochir ko chitalo ne tono shodin. Tana chu kambo chazo wazi. Kambo jaram bochir ko chitalo ne tono shodin jaram bochim yerba mirko oda kenjiko kurta cham gurum bochim yerba mirko oda kenjiko oda rawa go.
And after slapping, that person asked her, "Oh, you guys were having the portraits of His Holiness in your hands. Where did you get them? You must have an organization behind you. Tell me who is the leader of the organization." And he also asked, "What do you guys want?" And then they answered that they want His Holiness the Dalai Lama to be back and the freedom in Tibet.
Tani ta chasunda da gomba chama de zhe hana da chama noxhi zida.
And then their clothes were stripped down.
Ani chama de ne da takshe ne da tani.
Then they started checking them.
Tani namo tutsu jazga daga in zhe ta lama wajata lachchig jamna da ta kongsa jogo nares.
And then around 10 p.m. they were handcuffed, and then they told them they're gonna send them somewhere else.
Tena numum sanati sodi tanim nemum sante so go chirta go ngi so ngaro de na shigo kurdu yo da shigo kurdu na da nga ndko go zinda ndikchuk na maras tani nga shuda bko go zinda jo shuda ndu puse on mar na nga nga qinji do yo kurezi tani ta shuda zo na dara tani shigo usun yo lakhchig yo lakhchig na hali ya ngi so ndimi tambo yek tambo di lakha shigo go zerko da go lakha ta so honna zina and
then that night, and then she said that she doesn't want to go somewhere else, and then they are forcing them they're forcing to take them to somewhere else, and then she said, then I'll cry. And then meanwhile, the handcuffs were very tight, and they made her it was hurting.
Tadita nodi parchi tu tu ya minam karyo musico ta tonjata. Daga chundo ashigo says. Ni mashigzi. The Berkamris, Marakaris.
And then around 6 in the morning, they started going, and then the person asked her, do you know where this place is? And then she said no, and then the person said, this is Markham.
Tani ta harati din sako janak jetrin sako runduk. Tago ngaji macha jarum bochi hipke azin jigje margo jaga azin jigje margo chida macha in sako cheko in sako jetrin sako sakete na sharna chokot. Macha jarum bochi hipke azin jigje margo chida uttar zani kamar sharka jin jikku maris. Ndara Chu water the conditions. No water shoes. The go Yanka symbol of Rada. Chu water the condition which you water Ganir village, Tadashuzuma. Dagum upsert. Water shibutima. Yatak chu shoot them, chimis in Juzama. Takan take a sankio jutani, a marrow zero mumbo in Jutagan Yamayo Juzinde. Drink that one. That's all she looks.
And then at that place, they saw a red flag that is Chinese red flag, and then she said that we have our own flag and the Tibetan flag. And then the person was very surprised and asked her, "How did you know about the Tibetan flag?" And then she said that she just started describing the Tibetan flag. And then the person got very angry.
Daganganzi, Macha Woda, Jarabochi, Hipka, and Mujik Marpita, Macha Woda, Ramameko. Jaka Shichipi and Sakasaka, that can't the Jerkas and direct in the chocolate. New dog, same to what dog is on.
And then the Tibetan flag, although we can use the Tibetan flag, we still wish His Holiness to be back. That's what she said. And then Xi Jinping goes to a lot of other countries, but Xi Jinping is allowed to go to a lot of countries and meet a lot of other people, but our Tibetan leader, His Holiness Dalai Lama, is not allowed to come back to Tibet. And then that person said, "You are crazy. You're so young. Why are you doing this?" I want His Holiness' return, and I want freedom in Tibet. In 2008, a lot of people were arrested from Chopaso during the uprising. You were so young that time. How did you know that? Although I I was a dropa, a nomad girl, at that time, my parents told me that a lot of by that time my parents told me a lot of Tibetans died, and then we were going to put candle lights for them. That's what her parents told her. And then she said that there were a lot of people that self-immolating themselves, and then a lot of people dying for the cause of Tibet, and only for one reason, for the return of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the freedom of Tibet.
Dimi chichake chansuga nyukta inde yarla na dimi mrali mera tonda churchake jaram bochi hipka mapchiga yonris chun dimi tongwara yoye daga so likze azuzali nderiga kaprasha ne tikna maganisma mag enchimani nye mopo yosene ga yarla gozi.
Okay, and then they wanted an answer from her, and then he said that
고수인데 저거 다 뭐나 맞다 주스 본다. 뭐 지금 고수가 쳐서서 잡다지는 더 잡네. 자랑 보지 힙게 먼저 주 저ችን 소인 지고 오다 잡아매 주 소인 지고 지자게 롤리 메라다 디미 야르노 친다게 지고 때고너레스 더게 지고 다라마 오너레스 춘 디미 나다 저쪽은 디미 뉴트에서가 송 죽자릭자니 지고 송나다 추 코르지기나 마그니지 뭐지 마그 니멍가 잡네 코르지기고 오다라고 고고지.
Okay, and then they answered her question that the reason why His Holiness Dalai Lama is not returning to Tibet, and the reason why Tibet has no freedom is because of these people self-immolating themselves, and that is because of people like you causing Dalai Lama in the societies. And then she said that is not it. We want His Holiness back to Tibet, and we want freedom for Tibet.
네, 롤리 메르고 당주는 왔다네. 야라제 주나 저 니수네 때문에 에요즈마. 나요지. 응은요 게는 본적이요지.
Do you have any relatives that have self-immolated themselves? She said yes. Or her brother was actually one of the self-immolated Tibetan elder brother.
아니 또 추천이 너리잖아. 고양 그때에 그 페르손데 야노 지너리 있잖아. 그것도 공비는 거 자와리지.
What happened to him? She said he was a monk from Kidikumba, and then he went to protest one day with the portrait of His Holiness Dalai Lama. And then he set himself on fire.
요지는가 점초 요지. 점초서 그러는데 만들선 거리지. 고향 그래도 공비는 거 자와리.
Another relative of her, another monk from Kidikumba, also self-immolated, and is also one of her relatives.
Then 다 시거 저 고수인나 강아 총총스 거나 독급 디네다다 백캠 거인스 백캠 주고인스 거 거는 거나 디네다 할래가 인스 거다 강아 총총스 거나 디네다 다 시거 두추 녀거 잡셔서 거 년식 저가 인스 거 아니게 하면 지가 더니 친디나 딥쇼는데 잠마블리가 처음블리가 디 친디나 딥쇼거든.
And then these people, they were all taken to Barkham They were taken to Barkham, a small police station in a small house, and then they were tortured for 6 days. 6 days, 6 nights.
아니 리홍하고 땡송하다 지금 그 리홍원이 저기 처저는 거. 더니 저그 함노소에 저그 야간저간로 중에. 이제 둘째부여와 둘째부 지금 둘째부여. 여기 저거 어떤 정도에 다 리홍하고 좀 도움이 안 돼. 아니 처저는 그 함노소에 좀 야간저간로 처.
Their whole body was sweating, and then they were like very sticky in their shoes.
다 리홍하고 존나 그 물탱 거 쉬고 저거. 더니 차와 아치에 그서 어쩌고 저거 지네. 고수인지 그 난조인지 그 영어야람네 팀이 염치 치에더라. 나나데라 제다 납직직지 하고 고수는 뚜뚜 되는지 그 녀지나데라 조. 다니 고수 존나 그 마야인지 그 뚜뚜 보는 거라 머티는지 그 고수 한 한나데지 그 깡지는 정도.
And that place was very hot, and then they were forced to labor, and then it was too hot that they sometimes had to take off their shoes. It was too hot for them, and then their shoes and feet got very sticky, so they had to take off their shoes while doing the labor in the police station.
다니 시가 리홍을 조이 멀땐 다니 고소인지가 쳐서 졌다지네 쳐 산디가 나와인지 그 넘째요 떨리기다 고소 잡근도 쳐 차오로 와 애니티 나와인지
And when they requested them to give water since they were too hot, but then they gave them hot water with some spices in it instead for them to wash themselves.
다니 친드나 니까문지가 그 친드나 뜻쇼가 그 제랑 보치고 족바요 족소에 딱 소인 저거 년적 저게 지가 니까문지가 작을 먹는데 되디 고소인 저거 따니 어서 니까마지 띠득스메게 다 자르동원에 잠적 가르치네 형태서 포빠다고 소식게 야시고 폰다오네 그도 녀스tom다고 옛날에 고소인 저거 니까문지가 있었거다 대치디 시고서 언제송디 칼리 조시가 냐까 침보래 다 로카요나 로카 칸이 범스트페 말이 대디 고수들아 다가랑았다지도 고수.
So the way that Chinese people were torturing them was different. If they were being beaten and everything, they can have more pride in themselves and think that they are fighting for something. But then instead, they were locked in a room with heaters on, and then they were tortured like this for 6 days. And then whilst you don't know where your friend is, there's a lot of doubts there. So it is a very big mentally torture.
다 순이지 그 끊고도 순이지 그 계좌에서 그 조스체 범식 정도 끊고도 순이 차차가 멀땡게 다 끊고 얘는 들고 마업증나 마고 다니 다 초티토가 나 뉴스 다니 다 뭐냐라냐 나 뉴스 내가냐 냐디 리 홍어던 데 셔셔기 마게.
It was too hot, and she didn't know whether to put her feet up or feet down, and then they even asked them to sleep on that very floor, and then she couldn't.
다니 저거 자나가 저땅게 저거 자르노 동노 팁쇼가는 처음에 뿌리 뿌셔셔리.
So a lot of the police officers, most of the police officers are male.
다니 자나가 고아서 오는데 다 응아샤노 저거 즈데 딱 로는 처음에 얘기돼 처음에 다니 쿵아샤는 처음에 저거 늘 뛰는데 다니 다른 자동 너무 장고 있는데 아니던 다 냐타바자가 고반죠.
And then a officer came and looked at her from up to down, and then said that she has to be tortured again more.
다니 년적 즉그러니 다 디쇼는데 되는데 다 어제 리신세 좋은 저거 좌시 종에서 저거 딥거니 큰거 나이 다 예라 디셨다 마르티 공안 저거 영 리홍고 곰바 청마도 했는데 영 다대고 딘데 덕신도네 다 고수도 지내다 더니 얘랑 나압디네다라 우수 함당 오서 함 할이 좀보서 윤나요 고수 죽는다라 우수 인스가 함제가 님에 할이야 인스가 잡잡고 지금 님이스가 저거 알랑고 님이스 잡잡스 진다.
And then after 6 days, they were taken to a place called Lishan, another prison. And then they had a whole body checkup. And then before that, she had a really warm shoes with her. But then they took it away and then gave her a very thin shoes that is barely giving her any warmth.
드니 너디 전나다 계속 참아블랑었다 올라가서 참아다 자주자 어떻게 오죠 드니 얘랑 너디는다 다 참바고 건주리도 강남에서 준다 할이 영화가 차 할이요고 다도 공부는 너를 좀 맞았나 들금 제도 오죠 무슨 공부 리용이 제도 오죠 처진에 아수인나 안나수인나다 함이 영미스런 간다 할이가 인지 녹바도 손에 치고 쳐요 깍깍나고 혼자 작은 조리
and then they gave them prisoner clothes, and which was really bad quality, and it was like very hurting their skin very much.
그 권빙원 다 자약 그 리신이스 제유인데 디미트 정도 왔거든. 리신 제유죠. 니츠마로 리신 제유.
And then on that prisoner clothes wrote Lishan prison.
드니 땅 강아서 그나마 얘라 디저트 휘저던 게 저거디 거기서 그나마 지금 nhập 나와 옛나요 막 요디 다 자모치요고 자모때 지금 다니마 찾은 거 많고다 오보다 디디 나가 얘라 된다 고스케즈라 드니 투투 다든 트릭티미 하면서 그 자마도 땅다 다 자마때 지 정말 할리에서 쪽에 책내는 팀이들이
So other prisoners are locked in a room with 12 prisoners each, but then she was locked alone. Before that, there was a Chinese female, but then after 2 days, she was also transferred, so she had to stay in a single block. And then they got food at around 6-7 o'clock, but then the food was really bad.
It's
very smelly.
9
o'clock you are allowed to sleep.
The
clothes were very bad. Although the clothes were very bad and the conditions were very bad, she couldn't sleep for 6 days before that, so that day she slept. And then she don't know when, and then she was waking up, and then she heard this song about Chinese people singing, like praising their own country. And then she woke up. And then started cleaning up. So that day, the Chinese, her roommate was.
Gender mo chuntok jeta ngane zek mo to khur ma khsum riwa khoso ina nyu zek ngatik zok ya ngatik zok tani utta oson khuni tang ngata ngane zek za den den zek ta trashi zogni danri ta za zek na zek nyantak pa to ti nang ge zek ta morang zek ngo den zek mozri umizri ti pomo ti zek ta za zek de zefchi de tak pren de 남치 좀 님이 총총서리 버거리 추 치즈가 님이 지너스 저 하마다 냠도 된다 싶고 메게스 자름 보치고 춘디미 르커퍼 체는데 자름 보치 힙간 제고진다 저 제람보치가 쳐서 한 토고 다저 정컴가 요거 저 어용 거지.
So every day they will tell her, Namkyi, you are so young, you should be living with your family and your parents. Why are you doing this? You are shouting of the return and long life of His Holiness Dalai Lama, but he's not here to help you. Why are you doing this?
저 제람보치가 이제 그 동쪽 결매자가 좀 많이 와서 곰매자 전류 많이 와서 다 처리 좀 ndamekaze cho ngo to chimekaze ta chang jar bo chi chuni ka personde cho che poyo ko che kaze ma cho pa mar che ge
His Holiness never even offered you one piece of cloth or anything. So why are you doing this? Are you happy right now?
tani ngonde ze chedo chekon dimi se ko ngacha o pa so san na tamne chamar danon dimi shimre yinna ya jar bo chi de jodo chichake ngacha se ko lomin na artist ni dara saman thongguyo ra 제가 뭐 지금 잠보 랑네리 제가 리스트만 잡다도 뭐차기 저제 거 거기 되게 지금 오늘은 거기 정말 친도 요래라.
And she answered that we know His Holiness Dalai Lama is viewing us from above and then he sees everything. So she knows that he is always there with her.
드니 다 똑브른저가 드니 저거 영스트림 저거 다 년떡바이 오는데라 영.
And then they kept asking her.
년떡바이 오는데라 땅아 아치 단저 좀 망니 저거 냠터와 냠텐디 땅아냐 저화요 뭐요데라 내가 뭐니 스케치업샤노도 차게 똑브른 저거 도움 좋은 거 스타나 용거. 드니
her sister and her were gathered together, united together.
고수통송아 통송된 저거 남치 추천을 지금 나는 말하지 마.
And then one day they asked, "Are you sick, Namkyi?"
나는 말이 맞지 않는 애거든.
I'm not sick.
치밀이 어찌 거잖아.
Are you happy?
저기도 그래.
I said I'm okay.
조금을 찍어야지.
I have no regrets.
조금을 찍어지.
No regrets.
드니 다인스 거 저거 디노한스 거 저스탕게인스 거 그냥 그만스 거 처음에인스 거 할지로 제려. 되게갑시나 다야 니스 가미야미스 거다 나랑금 영어도 드니 호 자페인스 거 전적 잔나다다 아지인스 거 매양인스 거 자주인스 거 고소는 냠때인스 뭐 자냐가 존이 말아 크로요서.
And although the prison is full of Chinese people, there was one from Mianyang. A girl named Tabe was also. And there was another political prisoner from Mianyang, and then her uncle that also came to that prison.
뭐지 하라 스라 게 잼나이나 지가면지가 아니고 어제 이거 어디 알락식 장고요가 아니고
If they try to talk to each other, they will come right away to like beat them up.
드니 년츠스가 저거 담담라네 저거도 다 티캡스 천발 섬에서 그 전통랄랍 잡네 저거 하라서 곰바 소수 곰바 저거 다 천발 잡기 곰비는 하라 짜고.
Unfortunately, one day all the prisoners were walking, having a parade.
니 용어 저거 로송 가르선 저거 콜로 두두 녀버 존이 말아 용다 로 심다 잡집자도 드니 거냐 되셨다 거냐 똥똥 들어 마니가 마태가 로직대 증거라고 그 점떡 잡는데 아치 고소했나 같이 저거 다 하라서라 친구 접이 접아지는데 나용 정코나용 하고도 드니 중어 저 점떡 집자다 진다 콜로 심다 잡집자다 드니 뭐니 스케치업샤다 당 고르조는 말 뭐니 스케치업샤디 쉐카 맙지가는 저거 우셨다 얘라 넌 주지 그러면 얘라 나 뒤졌다 쉐카면 찍고 어제 제가 정말 이렇게 하라서라 나 뒤는데 하나 용어다 스케치업샤 디몬 조건에 조건 있나요 응 용어냐 스케치 지게 결마친이서 쉐카 맙지가 얘라 나 주지 스케치하고 얘라 나 뒤졌다.
So when there was like free time for them to go walking outside, there was one chance. Fortunately, she had the chance to meet her own brother, Losang Kasang, the brother Losang Kasang, and then they had a few 2 minutes to talk to each other, and then he was actually sentenced to prison for 3 years and 6 months. And then while they were speaking, just for like two minutes, the police officers came and then beat them up and then separated them. So normally, usually people are allowed to meet at that time, but then only her and her brother were not allowed.
그거 justin 그거 디파니어 칸스가 논디자란스가 참 지크요 같다 수지요 같다 디미즈가 땅모서 되게 좀 먹자 그 논디자를 딱 그래.
So the food there is always a very thin rice soup.
먹지거다 그거. 먹지거.
That is not helping with the hunger.
녀치인스가 학교 치근데로 요가 뜨인스가 지게즈 요고. 디 시로 쪼 gem바리 먹지거 너무 보여가.
With very poor rice, more water, little rice, and then sometimes there is worms in it.
Tani nyanasan ko jirko janaka stajun ka hamin ka hale shauri gunka dine dar ton ka dine dab ji nori jirtan kin zu dashi jong tikap sa hale ga yin zu sanche chego jing go ka.
That place is very cold, and then at that time it was August, so it was like more cold in that region.
그거 시군 청내 거인서 그 수인서 근데 그만큼 증거 체크인서 그 아이 먹고야. 그것도 지금 다쳐서 본으로 rus죠. wason디 너가 난 아이 먹고.
So it was numb. Her fingers were numb, and then when you touched the fingers, it was not feeling anything.
곰반의 영어 제가 요 말 마우디 곰반스가 크성고 곰반 권지스가 때문에 아따 처배고 곰반스가 때문에 치에들인데 너는 무슨 야랍 잡는데 막 샤워들이 못 줘야 할리 체크 시기 체크.
The prisoner clothes they have is very thin, and then it is also very loose, so they have to she has to grab it all the time, and then it is not helping a lot with the weather.
Tani ta aroziga iner kachapshase meko chokoinz ko ta tutsu tigni jokpa langogo gurkaina tutsu ta jet good timis toni nyane choko tiser kachapshase meko ta tu sambo zamat ayoma samjoma ta go yu lalana zoko ta shirgoze chongchongzogo tinoni yara tidanna ta go makchake yara maran jonurko ta ta jemmosra ko odi 오타직 자마자랑고가 남드그랑고가 삼점 찍찍아 가르치스메기다.
You are up from 6 to 4, and then you can sleep from 9 o'clock, and you have nothing to do rather than just staring at the window, and then when someone passes by, you will know that maybe it's time for food.
드니 다들이 시고 깨짝 찌게 없었어 말이 마우티 고수인 나라.
There's no one to talk to.
산으로 있나 저거 고수 무기를 있고. 다팀이 크랩 디네단 조바르체고 소인스고 조바르체고 고소떠세고가.
Their aim was to make her suffer and then make her regret what she has done.
드니 다 깨짝 직장 없었어 마우드 소수 셈고도 노는 거고 마노나 다 셈통는 버지 녀께지고.
So if you have no one to talk to, there is also a high risk to be a little bit mental ill.
Tani ta timise kapda de ngarang zo tinani cheze ine yenzina ta chinna khandon ton tani yara mara ni tergi
And then she did a lot of prayers.
ti chagren cha tergina ti ta chindina chako ta ja wot se jo ta che ngapshe dina me cho so suin chiko chiwo tamba tang ta 추제지도 요라 다가인서 그 친구나 몰람집 친구나 자르고 저러다비.
So she believed in Buddhism, and then during those times she constantly recited mantras, and then did body prayers to the Lord, and then she did a lot of prayers for the Gyotamba, the sentient beings, and then also to His Holiness Dalai Lama.
Tinoni da danziga jarnadara ta yon nyachiziga jogonerizenda ta jajati chirtan kenzugo nganainzugo ta tina khshana chamainzugo jag ngoni gotrite jut chamai lishkalino wotti tani zongte ngoniga chanoinzugo jar changchang genzugo de chochir zomainzugo jajati kheshushi.
After 7 months, suddenly they were again transferred to another place called the Heishui prison, and then at that place there was no Chinese. It was only there was no Tibetan. It was only Chinese people.
디나가 초치 종아만이 입자자디 초치 종이 저거 영식적인 거니 저거 그렇게 뒤졌다.
Again, they were separated.
다니 뭐니 저거 그렇게 뒤는데 다니 저거 죽자메고 다니
They didn't have breakfast.
그 디는 게 저거 자마찬 저거 zango chicken 와인 저거 자다 지금 조르지도 디 뉴네 저거 뉴나요 쇼로니나 고르모 저거 다 자미 고르모 chicken 다 찍다 다 모르냐도 디미나 너너니 고르모 저든 제인 저거 캡송상도 그래서
So then each week they have one chance to buy breakfast, but then well, like normally that food is 1 yuan from outside. It is 10 or like 10 times or 7 times higher in the prison.
다니 다다니 저거 첨덕 시작거든데 초치 종을 짜리 옛날에 다 찍으정게 첨덕 맵졌다.
So they were waiting for their sentence in the Heishui prison, but then for 6 months they were waiting for the result, but there was no result.
다니 저던게 저거 오빠래요 다 고수녀지 할래 무슨 저거 거진 지부이 고수녀지 영지 그 론데지네 저거 영지 거기 저거 고수녀 유아소에는 뭐차요 카간도라 고수녀지 영지 그 잡셔마인비 영지 그 문는다오리 디디 우서 거기 저거 잡배는 거 sabba tachis gondro za dindere 지금 럭마트게라 할리에서 좀 그때 어제 sabba트 지금 시고인 지금 제요게 나 sabba트 치지 하고 타지 그 참강아 손들에 지 sabba트 치지 gond로 제요노데 sabba트 치지 gond는 디다 치지 gond로 녀모지 gond로 뭐 되게 제니 하고 타
There were few Tibetan prisoners in that prison, and then they secretly gave her zamba. So for 7 months she didn't have any zamba, and then the first time she tasted zamba, she really felt how delicious and nutritious this Tibetan food is.
다니 저것도 자기 간호 고노이나 저딴 저거 초치 존이 저거 오빠체 저딴 거 공짜 딱바리 저거 쇼로나 먹고 요리서 라스코나 뭐니 돈나다 직접 라스코나 맞대 소소소선 칸나 디자가 이제고 그러면 그 라스코나 이제 먹어요 좀 그거 라스코요 디노 먹어요 답시 뭐니 돈나다 소소소선 칸나 디자가
So normally the Tibetan prisoners at that place are allowed to have their free time at this warrior outside, but then once they came, she and her sister came, no one was allowed to go out.
Tani za ta zhi yami zikun chuni ottamar otinoni zikun ngachai zikun yang zikun aku sunem zejizo zikun yang komera ngachi na ayot ngawani zikun ko zongkong na zikun lochige zikun dijoga ngacha kartu kombi jawazri.
And then another monk from Kitikoma called Akasonam, he was also taken, sent to this prison. There was another person called Jamyang Lodru. He was also a monk. Jamyang Lodru came to prison because of writing articles. The monk called Sonam was arrested because he protested.
지금이 값서 자모니 용다 머니가 있고 진짜 그렇게 좁아 알죠 거즈마.
And then after 6 months they finally got to have their And then after 6 months, they were finally taken to the court. And then a Chinese woman came and asked them again, do you guys regret it?
저 님이 총총스레 요파 찍어지더라. 저 총통 냥냥샤 그래지. 저 요왕나 그래서.
You're very young, so if you say you have regrets, they will like lighten up your sentence years.
아니 뭐지 전또 로 고녀에서 그때 전속 발에서 로에 그래서 전속 발 고고 메라.
And there will be a lawyer to help you. And then she said, I don't need a lawyer.
녀산나던 축주민나던 다 던나가 청자와던 동무라 이디다 지르고지 지르고고 메라.
And then they asked her if she wanted to change her crime into another form of name, as like murder or something else. She said no. I don't need that. You are very young. If you change your testimonies, and there's a chance that you will get very light prison years. I don't want to change it. That's what I said. And then the second day they started their court. On that very same day there was 3 court cases. One is her and her sister Tenzin Shinyi, and then another in the evening was that monk Sonam.
Tani ta lakchig jamna da nandi zara ta lakchig jamna da chutta lakchig jamna amr da tsama go skordo da ngani ga ta
there were a lot of police around them.
Tene da ngani ga chungtag cha ko re da yen na ya ta chis go ro chungtag chig janna ham go gra ta jopa murche go zionori.
We didn't know what's going to happen, but we said we have no regrets.
Nandi zara ta 소소 치즈고는 잡서 주선에 치르납시나 출kom 쪽서보다 할로면 요마라.
Only thing we take refuge to is lalama lakuncho.
아니 나디자라 오마조 따따좀 쳤더니 몰람서 잡 샤즈은사.
And then we did some prayers. We offered some prayers to kuncho.
Tani tangane chedate chesonde ngani ge gallo no yinde hara chamkono chepte lalo yon hara lalo chamkono harason.
And then while they were taking us to court, we were singing on the way.
Lalo yisone tani tari tangane chessa tondine yongchire tsego mani kre dinade yongchire tipshonte.
Again they were separated and asked questions.
전 요파 아치거지.
Do you have regrets? That's what they asked.
요파 머치거지.
I don't have any regrets. That's what she said.
더가 아치 영치 전데 영치를 뭐냐 그렇게 좀 아치 요파 아치고 줘.
주부지고.
아치라 아치. 뭐냐 그렇게 전데 그렇게 요파.
And then again they also asked the sister if she has any regrets.
더가 뭐냐 아치 나란 요파 머치고 지느라 아치란 요파 머치고 줘.
They both answered no.
Tani tatari ngani cham khcha jogun tsung gopsig jada gopsig na da ta jarum bochig kapar sharno nyen de per nyen so me ka da per de chama chiro de chu jarum bochig kapar sharne de ndri ne de chen so da nyog de jarum bochig ka chi jawne obji chudur obji yes.
And then the court case started, and then they showed her a lot of pictures and videos of what they did, and then they said, did you do this? Yes, I did that. Do you have any regrets? No regrets.
Tani tatari khcha jija boyensiko yara chama chamu lawna dare 다 기kin도 염치고 있나요? 나 정말 나가 보거나 뒤지게 정되다.
So while you are supposed to stand still and pay respect to the judge, but then that time she didn't do that. She had her hands in her pockets and then she disrespected the judge. A Chinese female came and asked her to stand still. She did again. She put her hands in the pocket and then seated like this. And then the judge said 3 years. The Chinese people around them, they were surprised and they were like looking around. So there was no family members allowed at that court. There was a Tibetan girl from China. And there was a girl, a officer from Tongwon, and she was Tibetan. And then, but she asked to speak with Namkyi in Chinese. But Namkyi said that her whole life, daytime, nighttime, she was a nomad and she was with yaks and ships. So she doesn't know any Chinese. So she needs a translator. There was a translator. And then there was a paper that wrote everything she has done. There was a paper writing everything she has done and then that she has no regrets, and then asked her to put her fingerprint on it. So the translator, that Tongwon girl translator, so after seeing the result, although she is officer for the Chinese government, but she said that she was having a little regrets and said that she wasn't being helpful, and she's sorry that she wasn't being helpful for them.
So the
judges, there were two female and one male judge, and then after saying that she got 3 years sentence, and then when they came off the stage, she felt that they looked very small to her. So she felt very brave for herself because she said she has no regrets. Although they got 3 years prison sentence, but then she felt more brave and more courage. So they were both singing while coming back. I can sing that song for you guys now. There is a nice people that is Tibetan people. The way back was very long, so we didn't sing just one song, we sang a lot of songs. There's another song. My leader is Lobsang Sengke. My Asians are Songjin Gambo. I am a Tibetan. My food is samba. My livestock is yak and sheep. I am a Tibetan.
Tani timir lalai ta lamong long yon di sere tona der ganda lang de ja loksam chan ra kimlo mar chilga khilende ache shogo karung go ja no hong gyap ko yora tani sere nang aton di jina da cho loksam ga manum gares andil dokti tig lalong.
And then when they got back, some people said that 2 years is too much, too many years. And then she said, it's all right. And then they were singing songs.
Tani taga jirtang kin tsuku tinoni drikshen tsuku chantak jayjagdi tsamayin da nyamtab dine choko. Jerayin tsuku tatan nak tsongjama tsamayin nyamtab dita. Inna yang tani ngazi achida ngani nyamtab dine drikarwa ta ngani ga chantak jaydo ka jantsak taji.
So normally the prisoners can live together, whether you are like political prisoner or you did some other crimes. So she asked for her sister to live with her in the prison.
진짜 자나 정거에서 그 축친구요 말이 축는 말이지 그냥 말디다.
There's no permission for you guys to stay together, so they were not allowed to stay together.
드니들의 당연히 그다 정답 제정들이 다 지금 영실이라 득실에 끄야지. 득실이 먹고라.
So the court decision was made, but then they asked if you have any objections, and then they said no.
다들이 드니 그 다듯이 먹고 드니 그냥 그 하라 니르니 그 다정코는 하라 다 지우저 자그리스 드니 당연히 자주고 곱직송디
They were taken back to the prisons.
스트렌 존치 그스럽게 지금 머르거다 정령 머르게 지금 존콩소고 다 디나와 지금 뭐냐 디타 디나였나요 결말 상처선 마고르다 그니게 머사다 자지다
So after that, they were taken to a prison in Sichuan County. That's a special prison for minorities. But then after 30 minutes, they were again taken to another prison.
디나 자디 고스터가 가면은 이거 다 아마존고 마존 부처탄고 오바자 부처탄 그 자니 니브진고 있나요 맞소 오바 다 자섬 니브시 왔다 정게지고.
So all the prisoners are in that prison. All the prisoners are asked to do some military service, not military workout kind of thing. And then normally for the normal prisoners, they were asked to do 2 years. But then for Tibetans, they are asked 2 months. Sorry. And then for Tibetans, they are asked to do 3 to 4 months.
드니 제차게 하라스를 개잡셔다 주고 있네요. 맞소 빼수 두촌 이거 잡죠. 저거 자나가 다 좀매네 팀이네. 두촌 이거 잡죠. 저거 무슨 니니 슝가지 년참미데.
So it is a bit freely, but then 24 hours they will have 2 people like keep watching them.
드니 하라스를 개잡셔게만 지고.
And then they're not allowed to speak to each other.
드니 년츠가 다 치스도 그러고 오빠들이 드니 언니 개잡셔.
One day she spoke to a Tibetan.
저디 뭐 저로 집에서 jet하진다. 드니 헬스 개잡셔가 맞지. 친이 개잡셔인데 주는 말이지.
How are you doing? How did you get here? That was the conversation, and then suddenly that the officers came and separated them and didn't allow them to speak to each other.
드니 이 제모인서 뭐냐 쇼노가 쇼노인서 그 헬스인서 그다 바주 감고인서 그 뜻이고 막 뜻는다가 치다쇼 내가 손에다 주치즈가 개잡잖아. 제제 자르고 지금 촉발을 캡처를 진짜 셴나마 셴나 촉나 말 진짜 촉박지그리 장난 정도인서 그 진짜가 좀 담보요래 진짜 개잡셴나 촉나 말이지.
And then that watchwoman of hers that took her to side and said that what are you trying to say? You guys are related to the Dalai organization you guys have. You guys are trying to separate this country, and then you guys have no rights to speak to each other.
그때는 저거다 바주 감고장 그 시가 할리아 다 매력 요크다. 소이네 자르보지 그 뭐지고는 자르보지 단누 뭐 있는 거. 시가 지자게 저거다 자르보지 단누를 저쪽진네 제키와인 지금 몰라가 캔디진데 시고 수도가 지금 머게는 되겠다 시고 리포도서 마디에 되네 야라 야르지고네 시고 치즈고르고 깨겐데 시고 요거데 고수인 지금 소티 나도 뭐신고 마전데
There was a lot of discriminations in the prison since they were related to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So a lot of discriminations against them.
드니 망아서 없었던 게 그다 야르지고네 소수나 잔너 정말 좀 고도 막을 주파 무식지가 지오더래. 드니 뭐 야르지고 내가 시고 심지가 무식이야. 공지가 뭐도 야라 야르지는데 치고는 지위탄데 사야라 집셔고. 드니 뭐 쳐서 그냥 쳐서 된다. 나랑 그 거기 나왔지거든. 나랑 그 은퇴는 식자요인.
she has no any regrets for being in prison, but then the discrimination made her really unhappy. But then she is the kind of person who leaves all the unhappiness to herself.
Tani da yanji bufuso jeyu minji zina samchu subjet tang tani chanba za jibjet tang ba tu hu za ti mi chanba ma yo ko ta ta cha yanchi mani go za tsi ko ni lon zin tamne go ta je chen zi go kurche ta so jo yin da yang ga cha jang bo ji ga jayi shin ma ri lo zin ma da yanchi mani da chen zeng go der zin zeng ge ji ko ma zin de nam mon chana tu su chi ni na nya ga ma ji ga lang ge ji ko zang kur dam ba ma da zin na Masho kya manjiga nyingani mata dogo jana dara ta mara amga chakila mo saka kamna dara digo.
They were given files like for Chinese propaganda and then asked to memorize, and she said she doesn't know how to memorize them, and then they were forced to memorize. They were not allowed to sleep until 2 a.m. in the morning to memorize these files.
Ni ta shigo te yennayo Kindo mamoya da kim mamno dina chinong zongkona yori yinnayo chizugunrugo da yarjenda yejiyuna chi songshuziga jogunara sosu lala gutiminya chi songshuda joguna chindina yarjina ngqa ngosozuka songshuda joguna yanshiga yewano yamchen qarko tanga songshuda maso rentadra daga kelmak chikna za tsamamara amachakela mo kamna da dabduguna kelmak chigrega no yara langam chikor kama da char har kelin kre
And then so when they are going to toilets, there were a lot of discriminations. So even when they were going to toilets, they were only allowed to sit for like 1 minute. And then one day she just sat there, and then that person.
Tani za samda chikoranga tani zkama.
That is not the toilet. It is some kind of exercise that you have to sit like this, and then there was a lot of different kind of tortures.
Ashigo marjong ikoge halya marjong go timi yara langapji di tutsudde langajiko tani esunde chai na shamara da tago jikuna anse timi cha wimdong gurjiko.
They forced them to do a lot of exercises.
Tadani da samda jikum choni zukma gurtga tukpa ma na zuko abjada dinoni zuko ta takparin zuko ndei go lishkali go tutsu tukta ni lango.
And then after a few months, she was transferred to the block 6, and then in there they had to do a lot of works.
Tutsu tukta ni lona da din berga zamazo da jedda timzuko tanga so lishkali sauna tonu da ta namo tutsu din jedda tsawa zuko ta chimda lishkali gajiko.
They had to work from 8 in the morning to around 7 in the evening.
Lishkali go mo kopshana su zuko nimi dadda zuko ta li hon go te so aza jismeko. They were
like, even she got injured on her butt area also for like sitting too long and working.
Tani harasrazina shikchangta mechoko inchi manigi muntak shchangchong local diskatamo harandarazana mechoko.
You're not allowed to look around, just only focusing on the work you have to do.
Tani parchu tanga tono chezudina goroji mari. Ngacha chami homozup jidi kapsa ngan secondly cha beoshu phaze okada ndi hoyu daw de cha chamba soso ne zga ta anzhang zyu.
Every prisoner had one number of themselves.
Dago ngo zga soso nyasi tanga jang da chuzi disra yong di ta make.
One day when she was out and came back, that the number tag was lost.
Maudi ta daga inzga yang magjong kapjin da kermap chan da ta zatsiga yang chir magjong kapjin da namum chana nyaga manjiga tri.
And then for punishment she got another punishment to do the military exercise for another month.
Tani chirko inson na ta kaptrijoli na choko da jarmoche tamochi pe kamorwa dendi khosu na chama inzga ngache tna gorta qona inzga nyi jibje da jigoko. In
In their block, there were like around 400 prisoners, and then she was the only Tibetan, and she was the youngest prisoner.
Daninga taditi bioshopa maunari yor zatsiga zika yorstir magjo kapjin da namung chana nyaga manjiga liska yorsti tikhamnanari liska na ta nyender ngarje tikjai denjai ligoga.
Sorry, previously I think she intentionally didn't wear the tag. So next time she again didn't wear the prisoner name tag, the number tag, and then they gave her another punishment for the exercise.
Tani yang magjonre, tani na jamoziga tsiko nyanga changhwa zegre morang tsiko ta kormo manga zu zujang ko loni khsarnya na mo chamche jogo.
There was a Chinese woman called Zhang Hua, and then she was a prisoner for 22 years.
Then tsiko ta jarchi churchi usam no ta jana ka de satang muzigunra shen fa za ju ti khocha de tsiko takper nga chakaji ka na de zara tu zega dagar gorka chama yar ta so de nga yar ta ju chuma de juni chakaji kare.
And then they asked her to teach her the law and the constitution of China.
Tani tati nani tsiko chisgodorgo jerkev zora zonsu jerkev kutsa chum ta chapsha sondi ta chisgodorgo ngo nyano an tsiko khaptsga ikon razriya.
And then while reading all those the constitutions, it felt like putting needles on her heart.
Tani warchamde tsiko morwa tsiko ngani jigri zina choko ngo teji
she had a fight with that woman.
Tani tapre tsiko jugla tsiko nga magjong kepji tani ti yige ta chakko nare jertango tari jertango tsiko ngani khre yara tanga sone chonore tanga sone tu chu go tani ti yara tanga sone chonore tago 제가 돌이 fujian zu ze da 제가 먹어 조금 로 고마르다 tinyaman tsiko ta kursu yenchir ngai tsiko ta chizgulo 다 영어스트레인스 그다 먹죠 다 영어스트레인스 그다 탑주진에 줬고요. chizgulo 거다 영 리그 chizgulo 깽을 때 용치 그 쳇다고 고승아이 저거 저 돌이 fujian zu로 거다 다 저진 초가 가가로 거다 이제 영어스트죠 스케르면 거니 자다 영어스트죠 먹죠 있는데 영어스트가 자 지금 먹죠 겹치소.
So there was a lot of discriminations, and then like a little bit of misbehave for her leads to another month of military exercise.
Tani morangin tsiko nyo jibjeda jiyori ti ngani tsiko ngai tsiko ta chizgonro toli fujen zu jambo kaka loksondari jinde nyo jibjeda tsiko ngani ngai yarar tsangna dara moi tsiko kerma kufra yinzinda chapjagata.
And then in front of all the 400 prisoners, she stood up and then said that she like they were like stars. They will keep points for the prisoners, and then she kept getting the minus points.
Tani nga haliyazin pertara tani yo namjindaw malawandastana da trinindere cho yehache longzin da jerkep kutoni bshetta yenna yo nga namjiri kha merten tatani jibje da jiyoro wati.
Also, in front of the 400 people, she was asked to stand out, and then normally she wouldn't do that, but then okay, so she stood up.
Tani tari tan dawa nishton George ka dawa dambi nangzige kapso ang ta chizgo rashkur chechchigo nani tsiko ta su tsiko chamkang khurkai tsiko mye yongda dare ta lonzang ga jiko chikiti ta jarchi churchi ga chamgai tsiko di ta chamchake indi ngachi rashkur na opa zanga khromo yumare nga tsiko lozongsi tani nglo zanga mejina nga patong fu lozongsi nga patong fu lo mazin nga ja sabsu marchatchatsin tani gortag gama wonang ge tsiko nya ta moi tsiko wemizeri yongda de chu chizega lo mazindri chu ngna tsiko lo zonda nga gortag gama no chu yoda chu chemazindri de nga hale zanta daga nga la ha pokna dine dare mutanga yere njer namjer tenja chu yahache longzi tani nga zanja dan zanta nga la ha pokna di namjer tan ma yahay malo
on 2018 July, in their blog there was a check on the memorization of those files, and then she was the only Tibetan, and then they asked her to memorize all those Chinese propaganda files, and then she said she doesn't know that, and then someone came to beat her up, and then she had her hands in her pockets and she didn't move.
Tani tatari tani chirtang kati nima de chungkang yonno yin se kati nima lonzeng go mazeng na tigo gortak nga chambo tripa chambo ka mazeng de na tanga cha gen se poto gambo chambi se kharcha ka yo kermen go ni kharcha ka yo tagatari mo woson ku khoso woson ko ni mo sra yo de chu chise ga lo mazeng na rezama.
So that day it was actually in a exam, so if one person from that block didn't get to memorize it, the whole block, the whole prisoners will get punished. So they were very angry at her and said, why didn't you memorize? I'm not going to memorize that, and I showed them some face.
Chu dis youngster zhe baton wu dang yanji bu zong dong sem ju subject de de di xian fa de ju de hui jia de youngster lo zong shou xi ma de jiang hua zai ju zhe ge de da ye qian luan zhe ge ji neng mo nia ge ma ji de du zhu ji ni wei de neng zhe.
And then that night, before going to bed, they came and asked her to memorize the whole constitutions, all the files.
Tani tari tanga cha paju gambo ge zhe ge chu kai ge zi ma le shou zhe 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 ge gong de ji zhe ngai ji tab committee.
Or you can write a letter that says you're sorry, apologize later. But she said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Tani tari nishton Georgia ge da jiwi ni ge ji ge ni ma tari nga da nga chi ni ge zhe zong kong ni bu ju ge zhe ni man zhou zhe da xie. Nayo sen na zeko hamata nyamta yong de so so na zongkon ni chin na wan de ngacha nga zongkon nyam ta pa ta ngacha yam zo nyam ta pa yong de youngster ngacha ko phayr ko zeko yam chu na dan chig ga youngster ga na de da chon ju par chi go youngster chu yar na ek ris di chimchong ta hamata ngacha yam zo ga zeko de hon din na pombo din na ta yong de war de de nyang ti sai jap tergin dara ta youngster diffusion da ngre daga chu ta ya na jirit nga machine.
On 21st October 2018, there was another they were taken away again to ask if you had any regrets, and then the whole family and then the regional officer from Ngaba was also asked to come, and then they wanted her to say that she has regrets, but she didn't.
Ta chu te ro yan chu ni da zu chen zo ga nyu zhe dang jia ru ji ge per dang xi jiang na la gan chang na ma chu ga shi chang na yang shi ju zo na de ge nyang dang ti chang ma jiang na de da ge za zhe ge na yin zhe ge yi ji men ni ge ga ni ge na da pe chu su na shi da ge zhe dang ge zhe ge lo Georgia ma thong ko ma thong ngone zhe ko cha di tho thong jin na di tho thong da chi de yo ma ri ma di nga chang tak cha di zhe ge lo Georgia ne da chang tak cha don de da nga 7 zhen da yo ma ri ma di yi ji men ni ge chu de li yi ji men ni chu de li ko zo de li ya na da ga ma jo che ze ko chong ma ha ko ro da nga de li ge chi.
And then after that, they asked her to write a promise letter saying that she will no longer be involved in any kinds of activities like protests or like this. And then she wasn't 18 years before she went to prison. So that time she already reached 18 years. So they asked her to make the Chinese ID card. And they were aiming that if she does anything, they will track her through that ID card.
Tani mera yo so na tar kha tang chi bu chi chang the mo jo tani chang ba tang tani chang sang tang da sa ni ge zhe chang zhe jin na yo ro chi chang yo na mo chong jin de chi bu na mo chong ji ti ja go do.
And then they had to write another promise letter saying that their parents wouldn't give them kadas, and the regional places wouldn't come and welcome them. So it was actually after 3 years that they get to go out of the prison.
드니들이 디디 다 저기 니그 등근이마 다 지구군으로 나런 건 나가로 탑송을.
And then on 27th October 2018, they were released. Both were released.
더럽적은 그 정권이 왜 저러는 나라 시가 수 저도 그런데 리본도 정권이 왜 저요 그제 말도 뭐 수 샘도 다 삼로서 요로와 더 단니 그 정권이 왜 메고
Although she was released from the prison, she knows that her body is out of the prison, but the heart still feels lost.
점선 저가 듣는 땀 무수나 나랑 그 일로 잡저리 나랑 그 아우리 처마에서 그 야람지오리 저딴 괜찮 그 무슨 디면서 지어디 내서 그 점성에서 그 도당 나쁘나 정치가 정저리.
The reason for that is that her relatives, her uncle and her brother was also political prisoners, and then the whole family was blacklisted by the Chinese government.
드니 다 ngărcheki yerchu martu no 직장은 좀 쳐.
And they were not allowed to go anywhere outside their region.
드니 스탁프레인스 거다 저딴게인스 거 스탁프레인스 거 할이야 선보조도 초강아요 추체거요 추체슬리거요.
They were always checking on them.
다그스라 뭐치고 다냐 그냥 큰거나 다치고 냐딱비나 쇼그제고들어데
Asked them to come to the police station.
카퍼나이츠 그영 말랑다와이츠 그런데 영 토고 처음에 아저 처음에 나는데 영 통군다고 딱버레 근데 고가
So they were always making discomfort for them.
아니 나라는 뭐죠 그러와
It was okay.
나랑 그 그 지속은 주고 딱 청코나 뒤져는 거 뭐죠 그 영시적 되었네 뭐 할긴 말긴 또뭐 니사살고 때 영근 그잖아 그 들기는데 쇼용이 때문에 거야 시고.
For me it was okay. I already went to the prison. But then my family, my father, who was very old, was always like controlled by the Chinese government.
할긴이나요 딱버리인스 그 당차인 좀 좋아한다고 했는데 그거 영아지가 좋아 똑똑한데요 좋아했네요 코모 kumrai 할래요리.
Our family is a nomad family, so we were always busy.
그거 할긴 딱버리인스 그 할긴나 친구네 하마니가 인스 친다 곱다고 그니 할긴나 친구네 선보준데 지금 호수 지야지 다인스 그 님이샤리가 맞이 여치 지에네 church thalma dagi zirka.
And they were always disturbing her father, and then they were always telling her father to lecture her.
Niston jergani jorjedi jergani jana jonga inzko ngacha yelso inzko ta chimchong mari ta chimchong jeka ni he inda zhok dongoni sanba yori ta cha inzko chama inzko chakpa zogapji dina inzko jana jonga inzko lipshipa khrzna andikejiko.
Then in 2019, among all of the kids, all of the people, the children from her region, they nominated one person to work in the Chinese government.
Churkayin tsaka tangwayin tsaka soso nisa tsabja tang soso yin tsaka yinchimya jana zhongwayin tsaka ngacha yin tsonim tsukna dara yin tsaka soso nisa yin tsaka tsukha tsingsi. Tani tsukha tsingdi soso tsukha tsingdi nyesang chamchang tsaka khchikana ngan zhongsa meko. Nisa tsala hai sani meko, mai sani meko, nisa sasa zhongna meko. Jimtsin chasaga rizina 다 자나가인 저거 노식 건거인 저거 다 내서 점점 넣고 놀이 또 제가 있는 고소 영어인 저거 안 노식 잡고 요가 또는 저거 내가 점점 걸어하래.
So they made a committee in their society, but then only her family was not in that because they were afraid that they will bring trouble to other families.
Janak ni kharzam matonre da charna so ni kharzam mato khajna matorango ta tamatonre matone chamar di samlori chamar dinari tani yesu samlori changmai na li hong gong thani na ta tapje chistong ge zgo jerba atang dinari matanre ra.
The Chinese people couldn't change her, although they tried to torture her, to lecture her, and then with all different kind of methods, but it didn't work.
Chi ka shu to chizri de so so ni sa zalo dang tani ru chua yer chu de zgo anno shi rang shin go de lu zrong ga.
But then the most difficult part was the people around her, because they were making a lot of troubles for the people around her family, and then the people in her region.
To ge chi ka shu chizri chizri na chizri ko jinna ta ngo sa ha sa ni na hopchin hum man dong go no zo ka china ta mbom ba zon dong go ka na yara to na ina chu a chi ge timi ni sa ze ke zge jana ga timi ngor gu jo ko don san jo go mari ze.
For example, if one of her family members wants to go and do doctor degrees or get higher education, they will bring trouble or ask her. They will say that your sister once was a political prisoner, and then they want a proof.
To ta ni sto ni khur sak sam ge da jiwi ni ko da jiwi mar go ni sto ni khur sak sam ge da na wi chi chik sam ge ni mai zu ko ta yu a ta ni khap ta na da ta dana to yin wire ke ni len khang to na ni ko deng ge ni ma wire ke ni len khang to ta.
Therefore, on the 13th of May 2023, I left my village people, and then on 27th, I arrived at the Payu reception center, the Nepal reception center.
Nima ngia da zo mangur ta no yu a in ko chirtang ko ngan robo no chama in ko shem ya.
For 5 days, I didn't tell anyone where I was going.
Tani nga nami sara kapar ton ta.
And then her family started calling her.
Cho in ko jadara tu sung so ser ko janak jo in ko ugo no ngabli go ta.
Chinese officers came to our house and said that you fled to India.
Chu in ko jer kep ta non ni ko chok pa ta ta chik ching ko nga ma ji jik ka shi in na cherchep ton er da ga yes. Ta go jimo in ko hosur jig ga chi tani ko komba ta kon mo chik chang kar ma jo kre na checha chnar da ga hosur jig ga chi da hama ga in ko ngan ji khir ko.
And then asked her parents to lecture her, but then they were not allowed to send her any money or make any other contacts.
Ni sto ni go zab je ga da wa ji wi ni ma ko ta ngai ko ta sang go sa ji jin na da ta chimbo zo ma gur ta.
On the April of 2024, I did a press conference.
Ni ga hargen mergen ta ni nyong ta ni chamro ko yin ko ta wo mi nari 정말 그가 정록서 요노 요도 주고 당자 정록이 뭐리 단자 좀 말이 오케리 오고지 다리 더니 성르지 꼼주고 조빠 팀이다 요너리 시그마 또 정말 지금 맞춰봐 니 말로 해서 그 자nak 종고 그냥 그거나 천나더라 너희 그 응카소 이제 카면은 그저 남치소 응카 이제 제가 멋지지메가 이하체 도지오가 진짜 멋지지메가 늘 고모고 시글리고 저거 더니 저거 뭐 간청금 냥니시 조조 레 접디 니라메 저건데 진짜 간다 요다다 카퍼라가 죽어 카퍼노니 저거 처음에 코스 힘겹지 저거 득신에 이하체 도지 진짜 멋지지메가.
And then after the press conference, the whole family, her father, mother, and her whole family was called to the police station. And then they told them that she was doing these things abroad. And then they also asked them to show their phones to check her WeChat and the WeChat conversation. And then her WeChat ID was Shidemelam. And then they deleted her WeChat ID from the parents' phone.
고소나 든쪽에다 니막스미 정해는데 거기는데 호수 잡는데 만지라 마이스 가신 리아에 나 진짜 참았다가.
And then they were warned that they are not allowed to make any contacts with Namkyi for about a week.
Tani nga har ke sik tapper ninde sik janag jong ajikor.
And then my father, he had to go to the government every day.
Tani kurang ko khapar samam chosoga.
His phone was taken away from him.
Tatari chirke sik janag jong sik shigo ososega noshit matav jong sik hamag sik njik kurna dara. Ta oso kechen joko nga mergen sik ta kecha harasara ngur ke manjiga sik nangar sik ken do jang dara tin da mal hosu tang ta chaze gon chi jana ta non ni chik chang kecha mali tani lob jong che ya kha che do cho chang murche che me ka ngachara dar chik chipo che dike che khatu zo ga jana ka noshik ta ko yore.
She would get like voice messages from her mother, which didn't sound anything like her mother. It was all Chinese propagandas.
Harasara ngur ke me rina ma chos radon jam na ma chos yichi mini ke ndir bisha ko koso nyanje yorwa.
They were only allowed to send voice message, no any video call or any other things.
That misery.
And then that's it.
십사국 순수 오늘아기 먼저 정간 알티 비능시 저와 중수 아니 같은 신도 지슈에 아니 그랑 송교래 같은